the fundamentals are the most important. So you can have like layers of knowledge on top of that, but fundamentals are fundamentals. They are like law of physics, they will never change. And so if I to give one advice, it all depends of course on the time, but the fundamentals.
This is 20 Minute JavaScript, a weekly show where I, your host, interview members of the JavaScript community about all topics concerning JavaScript. The 20 Minute JavaScript show is brought to you by OpenReplay, an open source session replay platform meant for developers. If you'd like to know more, visit openreplay.com. If you'd like to be on the show or suggest a topic, find us on Twitter at the20MinJS. Welcome to episode 32. I'm Fernando, and today I'm going to be interviewing Sergii Kirianov. You may know him as the JavaScript Messiah. He's in fact new to our industry, having switched careers somewhat recently, and he's going to be talking about his experience and giving some advice for those who, like him, wish to become web developers. Sergii, welcome to the show, and please go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, thank you, Fernando. So, hello everyone. My name is Sergei, and I'm working as a full stack developer right now with a focus on the front end in one of the Irish startups. So, they're creating an applications for like digital buildings for the management and stuff. So, it's a pretty interesting project. And also, other than that, running my Twitter page and started a YouTube channel recently, and also some blogs and a course for one of the educational platforms. So kind of like everywhere. I'm trying to be everywhere. Yeah.
That's fair. We'll add all links to all those places in the show notes at the end so people can find you. All right. So, Sergey, we are today here to talk about essentially getting started as a web developer. Yeah, getting your first job. How hard is it, and what should you like be focusing on? Because essentially, you've been through the process a little while ago. So you are what is commonly known as a career switcher. Essentially, you did not start your whole working process as a web developer. You've been doing something else. Do you mind sharing with the audience what were you doing before you became a developer?
Yeah, sure. So this is a long one. I will try to make it short. And
All right.
I was working as a deck officer, which is a seafarer. So basically, if you have seen any movies about ships, or something, I am that one guy in the uniform who stands near the captain and controls the ship.
All
So
right.
I've been doing that for about 10 years,
Wow.
traveling around the world, and we were carrying liquefied natural gas. So the dangerous place to be. Yeah, so this is what I was doing before, and then one day I realized that nah, it's not for me anymore. I want something else. Yeah, so it was pretty boring on a bridge, I would say. It sounds weird, but it is actually boring because so much automation is going on and so on. It came to a point that I was printing myself a Sudoku and solving them just to make my head work. And so then I was like, okay, how can I use my head and also make a good money? And I'm like,
Right.
programmers is cool, right? So yeah, and that's how I came to an idea that I want to switch the careers. And here I am right now. It's almost 1 year already in the field.
All right. Interesting background. Really. Would you say that it has helped you somehow in what you're doing, or are you just like completely starting over?
Well, we didn't have much of any like real programming, but still during this is a technical profession, right? So there was a lot of like math and high math in the university, and it was 5.5 years. So it's like a master's of nautical science, and we were learning everything from starting from like astronomy to physics and high math and so I had that basic like algorithmic logical thinking initially, and also like this is one thing that many people don't really realize in their previous jobs, as if they want to switch that every job is basically you have a problem and you are solving that problem. So any job is literally helpful to be a programmer, because you have the algorithms, you still understand, step by step how to solve the problem. And so yeah, I had that a lot in my previous career, so I think it has helped me a bit.
All right, fair enough. So you kind of said already you've been at it for what, almost a year as a
Yep.
developer.
Yes,
All right,
so it has been almost a year.
working as a developer. But since when would you say that did you make that kind of conscious decision of saying, well, I'm actually going to switch careers?
So I would say around 2.5 years back, I have decided that I want to try. I started a bit, and I started when I was still on a ship. So it's like in the middle of the ocean, no
Right.
internet and so on. So I mean, there was some internet, but it's like 20 kilobytes per second,
Yeah.
and it was limited also, so not always available. And I had an option to learn something, so I tried JavaScript, because you have console, you can learn quite a lot with just that, and like HTML file in the notepad. So yeah, I tried once, then I dropped it, because I started with what people on Reddit suggested me, the eloquent JavaScript, and
All
it
right.
was a nightmare for the beginners. I don't know who really suggests that for the beginners, complete beginners. Because I mean, I was just broken and devastated by that book. And then I start missing it again. So I was like, okay, let me give it another shot. And I would say like 2 years back, I decided like, okay, I want to switch.
All right. Cool. So let's say 2 years to your first job, or 1 year and then you got your job. I'm trying to
Uh,
set the
no,
timeline correct.
1 year, 1 year. I was studying for 1 year, self-studying
Yeah.
for 1 year, and then it was basically a plan. I told myself like, okay, I'm giving myself 1 year to learn.
All right.
Then I was still going on a ship, so out of that 1 year, maybe around 7 months, I've been on board of the ship and were learning after work. And then once the I came back home, I said, okay, 1 month, I'm getting myself 1 month just to relax after a long trip and so on. It was still that COVID time, so
Yeah.
I was stuck on board for a while. And I gave myself 1 month, and I said like, okay, 1st November I will start applying to jobs. And on the 18th November, I signed my first offer. So it was pretty
Nice.
fast.
Nice. All right. So you've been through the process then, and what would you say is like your top advice, or what you would say to someone who's looking to get essentially that first job as a web developer, especially if they're coming from a different career? Where should they start? Clearly, eloquent JavaScript might not be the place, but what worked for you?
Um, as I said, I came from technical background, so there the fundamentals are the most important. So you can have like layers of knowledge on top of that, but fundamentals are fundamentals. They are like law of physics; they will never change. And so, if I to give one advice, it all depends, of course, on the time, but the fundamentals. If you have a lot of time and you have spare money to, like support yourself during this course of learning, if you want to get something really really solid knowledge, like open source university, there is one thing called like that. They basically like kind of give you 4 years of computer science degree education, but most of them are free courses from universities and so on. So, and they give like very strong fundamentals. Other than that, if you are quite short on time like I was, I mean, CS50 by Harvard, if you can withstand that 2-3 hours long lectures, then they really give you like minimum foundations and fundamentals that you need to build other knowledge on top of that. So the fundamentals is like the top pick for me.
Nice. All right. So, and I want to ask about this because there's always like that question of should you go with fundamentals, or should you like learn them eventually and first go for a marketable skill like, I don't know, React or Vue, things like are people are specifically asking for those roles right now. Would you say, clearly you're saying that it's better to go the long way and go with fundamentals, but why would you not go with the other one? Why would you I would not recommend people just getting started that jump into React, for instance.
Well, uh, by saying fundamentals, first of all, I didn't mean like only fundamentals of computer science. It meant
All
like
right.
fundamentals of computer science or some domain like web development or the one single programming language. Like, okay, since we're talking about web development, JavaScript, and I meant that fundamentals, like it's quite vague, I understand, but I meant those kind of things because, see, one very funny moment actually, I've seen it was on Twitter when somebody has posted like I was watching them for quite a while. They were learning React for about, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months already, and then they posted once that like, wow, today I learned that you can declare variables with const and let, not only var. And they were learning React for like 4 months.
Right.
So without, I mean, the minimum fundamentals, you really don't understand what you are doing. You can read and you can repeat it, but you cannot recreate it because you don't understand what is happening. And this is like, yeah, of course, like if you look at the market, the frameworks, everybody wants frameworks, whether it's React, Vue, Angular, or something else. Svelte, even I've seen some jobs already asking for Svelte. But in the end, like if you don't understand how the JavaScript works, yeah, you will be able to write it, but you will never be able to understand it.
That's a great answer. All right. Awesome. So when it comes to like studying, you mentioned the CS50 course by Harvard and the open source university. But is there like a preset path of topics, like just go with first go with HTML, then CSS, and then JavaScript? When you're doing JavaScript, go with this, and then I don't know, variables, and then frameworks, and so on. Is there like a preset path, or should you like just start reading and trying things out and developing your own projects? What would you be your recommendation there? Because even though we're still talking about a specific field within computer science, which is web development, there's still a lot of places where you can start and a lot of places where you can go with this. So what would be there like your guidance?
Well, first of all, don't get sold on these Twitter threads for the roadmaps. They are don't get me started on those, please. But if you really want a roadmap, there is one single place. I think this is the best roadmap, and not a single Twitter roadmap will ever compare to that. If you have seen that, it's I think it's roadmap.sh or something. They are making that like long PDFs with the full path for different domains like front end, back end, DevOps, and so on. So they have a lot of them, and they give you quite clear instructions what to learn. And they even have something like small notes, like this one, learn just fundamentals, then go to the next one. Like you can choose like different options, but this is the most popular one, and so on, so on, so on. So I think this is roadmap sh is the best place to do that, really. Other than that, if I mean, it's quite obvious example when people are saying like, what should I learn to get a job and this and that. You go on LinkedIn, search for the job post, and the job post is telling you like junior front-end developer, and you have researched your market in the local where you are living, or you want to work remotely worldwide. So you just search the general market for front-end and see, for example, okay, the hottest one is React, and they're asking you like React, Git, HTML, CSS, blah 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 blah, something else, maybe Next.js or some maybe MUI, some component library, and this is your roadmap. So they
Right.
want you to know JavaScript, they want you to know HTML, CSS, React. This is what people want you to know, and like 95% of jobs will be like JavaScript, React, and maybe HTML, CSS. Normally, they don't even mention that this time. So this is it basically. Like front end, it is very broad topic, but don't get don't try to spread yourself all over. Focus on something one. Like in my case, it was like that. I checked the job posts around the world because that was my goal, and I've seen that React is the most popular. so I want to learn React. And then somehow I liked it, and I still stick to that. And in my honest opinion, this is the best framework for me. Library, excuse me, it's library.
Right, right. Good correction. All right. Awesome. That's great. So something else that you mentioned, and I want to get your insight there. You kind of hinted at the fact that you are a self-taught developer, as you said, and you've been using free online resources, right?
Yeah.
At least you didn't mention so far anything that is paid. So would you recommend new developers going this way? So there's a very huge, essentially, discussion, let's call it that way, online about formal education versus self-taught education. Learning by yourself because everything's out there versus taking the time to go to classes, paying potentially for boot camp or even university, or hell, using Twitter as a university. So, what are your thoughts on that? What would be your recommendation for someone new?
This is very individual, because see, like in my particular case, and I believe that most of the self-taught developers who are career switchers, they don't really have the time and money to go the formal education path, because, like, see, in my case, I have 5.5 years that master's degree, and also I have bachelor degree in management. Like, if I will have to like drop everything, don't work for 4 years to get my
Yeah,
formal education, if that would be the only path to enter the tech field, I would not switch careers, because I understand that for these 4 years somehow I need to feed myself, feed my family,
clearly.
and everything else. And like when you are working in the career that has paid you well, to like drop basically from the horse to donkey, it's not something people want. And but if you have time and you have funds to follow the formal education, I will be for formal education. I am the person who thinks that yes, I am a conservative old type of a person. I think that the formal education is the best, not because it gives you the best knowledge, but it gives you a lot of networking and opportunities, because the socializing with your fellow students, something that you will never have as a self-taught developer, or it will be really really hard. You will need to be really very social person trying to connect with a lot of people. And like, if you look at the history of most of some very, like, this multi-billion dollar startups and so on, these were always some people from university, friend from university, who started something together. And so yeah, and again, like, you always have mentors who are professors and so on, and you can always get that, especially if you just after the school or college go to the university. This is my personal advice, because this is the school of life. You will learn a lot there, and you will learn a lot, how the community is working, how to live in that within community, the bad people, good people, who to talk with, who to stick to with, and so on. So if you ask me, yes, I am up to formal education. But if you were in position like me, yes, go self-taught. And I have not spent any single penny on education. It was all free available courses, from whether it's universities or some tech giants like Google, Meta, and so on. And I kind of trust them for some reason.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fair. That's fair.
yeah, like, if I'm getting a course for $40 from random guy in the internet, I'm like, okay. And then if I am getting the same course for free from, let's say, like, I have been taking the Helsinki University course, like, I trust Helsinki University more than the random dude from Udemy.
That's fair. That's a fair bet. All right. So you made the switch in about a year, like you said.
Yeah.
You went back and forth a little bit, and then spent about a year studying. But you also said you set yourself like a time limit. I want to do this in this time frame. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. So is a year a realistic time frame for everyone, or you think that you, because of your particular conditions where you were on a ship and so on, you were able to like do it faster than other people would. Because again, a lot of people are selling the idea online that you can become a developer in like a few weeks, or a web developer in a few months, if you follow a preset, a very strict set of essentially roadmaps. But realistically speaking, what would be like a time frame that people should expect to spend just studying?
So if someone tells you you can become something within 6 weeks or 6 months, it means they are selling you lose 10 kg of weight in 1 week courses, or that kind of butterfly that you put on your abs and they will bring you abs. So I don't really believe in that. But realistically, 1 year is enough. Some can do it in 6 months. Some can do it in 8 months. Some can do it, maybe they will not be able to do it in 1 year. They need more time. Um, I think there are so many different variables to that, based on like what is your initial background. Have you come from anything that includes any math? And I'm not saying math because you need math in programming, but math gives you that logical thinking.
Right.
And maybe you were artistic for whole your life and then you decided that you want to be a programmer, then you will need maybe more time. But again, this is like very individual. For myself, why I chose 1 year was because I thought like, if I start looking for a job and during the job interview I will be telling them like I have been learning for 6 months, they will just laugh at me.
Right.
So I was thinking like 1 year is, at least it sounds like some way, that I have actually have put some effort in learning that. So I was like, okay, I have 1 year and I'm offering you my 1 year
Right.
for you to give me an opportunity to work. And I can't say that this 1 year I was like learning every single day for 8 hours and so on. No, it was not that like that at all. I was quite easy on myself because again I was working about 70 hours a week on ship. So but somehow it worked for me for 1 year, and I think I could do it earlier. But as I said, I just wanted to have that 1 year,
Right.
in my pocket, that like it sounds solid.
Yeah, it sounds better absolutely than 6 months. Even if
Yeah.
in 6 months you're able to showcase that you know the stuff. But yeah, it sounds better even before you actually get a chance to be on the interview. When the people are
Yeah.
looking at your resume. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I think that related to that, how do you prove when you're just getting started, when you're career switching, and you've been at it for 6 months, a year, without an actual job, just learning? Are portfolios the way to go, or is it better to, I don't know, go with a standard curriculum, or maybe a well thought out LinkedIn profile? What worked for you there?
So I had my portfolio, and when I had already signed up the offer, after a few months working, I had a talk with senior developer who actually hired me, and we were talking something, and I told him about my portfolio, and he's like, "I never saw your portfolio." So, so I guess the portfolio it's debatable. It's like a huge debate actually, uh, because if you are front end developer, right, your portfolio must be outstanding. It should be just excellent. It should be fully responsive, fully optimized. It should be nice looking, and it should be so much stuff, and it should be also up to date. So it's pretty hard to actually keep it always up to date, especially when people don't really check it that much.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, if you go self-employed path, you are like one man agency and so on, of course you need to have a portfolio because this is how
Right.
you will be trying to attract the clients. But for the full-time job, like, let's think of backend devs or embedded developers, system developers, DevOps, like what they should show in their portfolio.
Yeah.
Like if they create like disgusting, bad looking portfolio, nobody will ever look at that, right? So you mentioned LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place to make yourself visible, make yourself searchable. So if you are just a random person sitting at home without any social links at all, without any social presence at all, how the people will become to know about you,
Right.
even if you are a great developer? So LinkedIn is good to make yourself visible to recruiters. And other than that, I think good proper resume is what brings you to that. It lets you go through the first layer of the recruitment process, which is like mostly non-technical person. So first you get through that, and then your GitHub plays a big role, because your GitHub is what actually the technical person will have a look. If you have like super cool, ultra fancy technological project on GitHub, but you don't have any resume, what the non-technical person, the recruiter, will just open it, and for him it will not have any difference between the hangman game, or if you have some
Right.
single page dashboard with like multiple API layers and I don't know,
Yeah.
full blown system. So for them, they will not really care. So the LinkedIn and resume is important. Like about resume, I can talk more because people are start neglecting it, and this is not correct. I think it's not correct, honestly. So I think portfolio is debatable. If you're sure that you want to have that load on your shoulders and keep it up with it and make it super perfect, then yeah, you go with that if that will work for you. For me, it didn't.
Right. So, what would you put on a resume then if you don't have any like actual working experience in the field? That was, I mean, back in the day when I started, that was one of the issues I had. So I solved it by creating a HTML JavaScript version of my resume and then sending both the Word document and the zip file. But I don't think that would work now. So that was pre GitHub, obviously, but how would you spice up your resume in a way that it looks interesting for the non-technical recruiter?
Um, as I said previously, I am an old
All right.
conservative guy, maybe. So for me, resume is official document. Okay, so it's not something that you will print and put on your fridge. This is your document, like your passport. You're not drawing anything on the passport.
Right.
You have your resume and you have some your diploma, certificates, and so on. So for me, I was treating resume as official document, which is a strict document that I don't have any of those beautiful designs, bubbles, and photos, and so on. No. So basically, there is also one resource by Harvard University you can put. I think it's called something like you just put resume, cover letter, Harvard. They will give you, it will be like 10 pages document about what to include, how to write resumes, and so on. So this is useful in Google for that. And there are basic standard practices, like one single page. It is clear, it doesn't have photos, no any weird design, and so on. So you have like your name, contact details. A lot of people, I have noticed, for some reason they don't put their city or country. I don't know why. Like, yes, I am applying to you, you are somewhere in Canada, but I live in Ukraine. So
Right.
if you don't like that, then okay, skip me. And so then, since you don't have real experience, uh, put your let me remember what was in my resume. uh, I think first I had my projects highlighted. No, I had my skills. I had my skills first. Skills meaning not the tech stack, but what I know and what I have done in my projects, what exactly I was doing. Then after that, I put the tech stack, then my projects, and then education. Since I don't have a specific computer science education, I put it in the down below. I included my formal education that I had, and also I included some of the like biggest courses like CS15
Right.
with Helsinki University MOC. So because the recruiters normally they scan top to bottom, left to right in most countries at least, and as the language of programming is English, so we are all doing that way, in that way. So first you need to somehow show the person that you actually know something, and
Right.
like, this is what I can. And then later you can add some, supplemental information, like, yeah, I have actually done that, and I have actually learned that, and so on. So if you ask me, yes, CV, resume, it is an official document that it should be that way. I mean, you cannot skip resume. Like, some people are going crazy about this thing that you don't need resume, like GitHub is your resume and so on. Did they actually went through applying the jobs? Like 19, I think, out of hundreds of jobs that I have applied, maybe only one or two didn't ask me with required field, attach your
Right.
resume. So, like, okay, how can I get through that job, through that application, if I don't have it? Yeah, so I think, yeah, you need to have it. If you are bad at that, there are people who are making you resumes for $20, $30. If you are too bad, just pay them, and they will make you one good resume.
That's fair. All right. And final question about the topic. Any last advice, any final advice you'd like to leave to everyone listening that is looking to either get their first job as a dev or find the next and hopefully better job?
Um, Believe in yourself. I don't know, is it a good advice or not, but
I think it's always a
really,
good advice to believe in yourself, no matter what you're doing.
yes. But a lot of people, they are having troubles, like, of the what so-called imposter syndrome, and they have it even without a single day actually working at the job. So I don't know, it's like nowadays it's getting better, honestly, but when I was also starting, and when I was reading all those posts and so on, it feels like you have like Linus Torvalds in every company. They have like so many people, like genius, Uncle Bob's after Uncle Bob on next computer, every computer. It's not like that. Okay, we are not the smartest people, and we are not genius here. We are all using Google and searching stuff and so on. So don't think that you are not enough. Try. Unless you will try, you will not know. If you have failed multiple interviews, don't don't uh, don't gauge your performance by only one interview, because you never know what the interviewer had in mind. They can be not in the mood, they can be busy with their own some thoughts or something else. They may not be good for their job as an interviewer. So and they can give you whatever, just whatever reply. Like, I had one interview, they sent me a test task, and I used I have compared strings with triple equals, and they said that I failed the test task because they wanted me to use locale compare. Like, this is the only reason, like, wow, come on. And so yeah, don't gauge it by that. But if you have failed multiple interviews, and you can see the generic what was wrong during this interview, maybe you are lacking some knowledge, you have basically the answer to your question. Go and learn those, understand it more, try to dive deeper and understand how it works under the hood, so then you can understand why it works that way. And so believe in yourself. Don't get discouraged with rejections. Leave it to that. Like, who cares about those rejections? They don't want you. They miss an opportunity to have you, beautiful person, on board. So this is their loss. Don't get discouraged at the requirements for the jobs that will require you 10 plus years of experience, PhD, astronaut,
Yeah.
chef, cook, and so on for junior position, because they ask like 5 years plus for a junior position, and then you actually come to work and their senior developers are writing trash code in production that you're like, I don't know how this company is even running. So don't get discouraged in that. Believe in yourself, you can do it. And if you have been working, you have been committed to your, and you are actually passionate about the job, don't make anything stop you, and just keep grinding, keep pushing.
Amazing. All right. Awesome. Awesome advice. That's it. That's the end of the topic. So now we just go to the quick round session for all guests. And we have three questions.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the best advice you ever received?
This one is when I was still working as an intern in my last job, so it was about 12 years back. And this is my favorite till now. If you do the job, make sure you do it properly.
All right. It's kind of basic, but good. Yeah. Make
Yeah,
sure you do, yeah.
it's basic, but a lot of people missing out on
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. All right. So, second question: what's the most exciting project you worked on?
Not my personal project, but it was in the first company I was working, and that time it was the first big thing I was doing on my own. And I think this was the time when I realized, like, I am not a junior developer anymore. I don't. So it was. A huge D3 chart written with D3 JS, and it had so much interactions and so on. So it was that big that I have around 400 lines of just constant
Wow.
values for. Yeah, so it was like really big, and it was interactive. It was changing depends on what data is showing and what users are what like user license are using this product. Basically, if you click on one, it will show the links of all connected different nodes, and so it was really really crazy. And I spent a lot of time on that, but when I did it, and because nobody knew T3GS in that company, I'm like, nah man, I'm not a junior anymore.
I am Mr. D3 here. All right. That makes sense. Final question. In this path that you've started 2 years ago, do you have one or maybe more things that you wish you knew when you started coding that and that you like picked up over this last year of experience?
Buy a good chair. No, this is really very important,
Yes,
but
I
it's just
feel
a
you.
joke. Yes, really, it's helpful in the future when you start working, but it is, and I've mentioned in one of my YouTube videos, it is extremely important. Learn tests. It's not that in real world companies they are actually following test driven development, mostly no, but I have not seen a single beginner's project with test. Like, I have reviewed some of them. I have asked people to drop me their GitHub links on Twitter and so on. I have not seen a single test in a single beginner's project. And if you write at least some tests to see that your, like, unit tests to see that your functions are running well, and maybe it's that something is rendering as you want it to be, and you will have this project in your portfolio. I mean, portfolio meaning that what you are presenting to the
Yeah.
employee in your resume and so on, or on your GitHub you pin that project, that will put you like thousands miles away from ahead of your competitors, because people will see like, wow, they know how to write tests. Like, it's so, like, right now it's so rare that beginners know about that, and it's not hard. Like, you can learn it in one day, and it's mostly templates. You just do the
Yeah.
same template. So this is one thing I would really suggest people to learn in the beginning. Don't go get too much obsessed with that, because you will never be able to test like 100% coverage of the application. I don't think it's even possible, but maybe it's possible. But yeah, this is one thing which will help you to be like on the different level from the others.
Absolutely, absolutely. Test, yeah, probably not TDD, but test in general are like a completely forgotten practice that eventually you picked up, but it's absolutely mandatory for every developer. So I agree with you there.
One thing I just wanted to add, in that open source society university, when you just started, I think it's the first course they give you. They actually start with designing a functions, and they are starting from the tests there. And trust me, when the first time, like, if whoever hears this, beginners, if you try to pass that small course, that small part, the moment you see how they are designing the functions using the tests from the beginning, it will change your mind. It will change the way how you look at functions for the rest of your life. Trust me.
Yeah, that's a different approach. Absolutely. All right, that's it. final ask from myself is, can you tell our audience where they can find you if they want to know more about you, know more about how to switch careers, or have any JavaScript questions in general?
Sure. I am always on Twitter, 24/7. I am on Twitter. So I don't know. I will not be mentioning tag. It's basically the same my name, but with the at in the beginning. And also YouTube. I started something for the beginning developers. So I'm talking a lot about this career switching and the resume, some tips and tricks and so on. And I will continue hopefully doing that and increase the quality. And blogs also. So I mean, on Twitter I'm always there, my DMs are open, you're always welcome to ask me any questions, but please think of the question before you ask it. Don't just say teach me front end development and I'm like, where are you at? I opened the notepad for the first time. So okay, at least get prepared with some more specific questions, please.
All right, fair enough. That's it, Sergi. Thank you so much for your time, for coming in, and hopefully shedding some light into the hard path that is career switching into web development. Hopefully, a lot of people will find this episode useful. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fernando. Thank you so much for listening and hope you did enjoy it and it was helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. To everyone listening, thank you, and catch you on the next one. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't yet, take 10 seconds and leave a review of the show on your podcasting app. It will help us grow and reach more developers. And while you're at it, follow us on Twitter at the 20MinJS. This episode was brought to you by OpenReplay, an open source session replay platform for developers. Visit openreplay.com to know more. And I'll see you back here next week.